Okay, so this we're talking about buying an investment property, one that you're never going to live in, maybe in the future, but not currently. And so you currently have a primary residence of some sort, and you want to buy a property for the sole purpose of renting it out. The reasons why we'll talk about in another video, but we're just going to dive into how I would go about searching for one. Now, finding an investment property is not the easiest thing in the world. There's a few different ways of going. There's a lot of different ways of going about it. This is going to be the more time intensive, but free way of doing it, where you can kind of start getting an idea of where you should look, because that's going to be one of the biggest things that you can do to simplify things a little bit and make sure you're not wasting a ton of time. So if you're on my website, I'm going to show you on my website, but you could really apply this to anything. You can apply it to Zillow, Redfin, things like that. But let's dive into it right now. So you're going to have two different tabs, okay? One, you're going to have for rentals. The other, you're going to have for residential. Now, what I would recommend you doing is probably capping your residential at maybe something like 450, and I would put a minimum of like 250 to weed out anything that's a little garbage. 250, 1, 2, 3, 450. There we go. So this will give you like a good little bracket. Now, obviously it depends on how much cash you want to throw at it and a ton of different variables, but this is just to show you an example of how you can go about it. So then you probably want to look at, for your very first one, you probably want to stay somewhat close to where you currently live, because you're going to be most familiar with that. So you want to pick a place you're most familiar with. So if you're in Gilbert, Chandler, Tempe, Buckeye, Goodyear, Peoria, wherever, pick somewhere you're familiar with and stay there. Stick to something that you know pretty well. And you know the neighborhoods, you know the schools, you know the roads, you know traffic, you know all that kind of stuff. You don't need to know the ins and outs of all the neighborhoods and things, but you have an idea of accommodations, restaurants, and things like that. So let's just start, for example, let's just start in Gilbert. We're gonna start in Gilbert. Then we're gonna go over to the rental one. And we're gonna put in Gilbert. I wouldn't put a minimum on the rent or maximum on the rent yet. Then we're going to say view all the listings found, and we're going to say view listings found. Then you want to go over to the map view. Of course, my big old head's going to take the majority of this map. Okay. So what I would do is I would start with the higher rents. So anything having a 1 in here or a 2, I would ignore at first, and I would start somewhere in the 3s plus, 3 plus. And you literally just start clicking around. Okay, so let's just start in Vista Lakes, for example, because you see a bunch of 3s, 4, 3, 8, 9, 15s. These might be like short term, maybe. Oh no, that's just crazy house. Okay, so let's just click on one. So let's click on this one. So $3,000 a month. What a horrible example with no photos. So let's pick another one. So $3,450 a month to rent this out. So anytime you see this right here, so it's been on the MLS for 3,000 days almost. Typically, they're doing that to market it as a short-term rental as well. They're getting $3,450 a month, and now let's go look in Vista Lakes. Now this is a condo. I just happen to know Vista Lakes pretty well, so this is going to be a condo. And what's really cool about these condos is you're actually right across the street from the Vista Lakes clubhouse, which is a pretty nice amenity. You have a beach pool. I'm sure there's gonna be photos in here. There's always photos. Yeah. So this is the clubhouse. The front of it. So you have the lake, you have the jacuzzi, you have the beach pool. This is a huge beach pool. You have a heated junior Olympic sized pool. Tennis, racquetball. You also have pickleball. You have weights in there. You have a gym in there. A ton of different stuff. So you would come in here and start clicking around. And you would start looking for something similar. So we know this is 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, built in 96, 2-story. Here's where the clubhouse is. This is going to be right across from that. So it's not the same location. So this one's going to be on the other side of the main vein, which you don't really want to do. You never really want to cross a main street. Like 2 major rules: don't cross the main street, and don't cross zip codes. So let's see if there's something for sale that is close to this one for rent. So 2 bed, 2 bath, 9. So that's identical. Right, 890 square feet, 890 square feet. That's actually not a bad deal, man. First one. Normally it's not so easy. Okay, so when you're looking at an investment property, typically if you want to get to the smaller price points, right? Meaning like, 400,000 or under 300, 400,000, you're gonna stumble into a lot of condos. Now, this is an expensive condo, 404, because you're in Val Vista Lakes with a clubhouse, whatever. Now, when you go condo, you're going to have a higher monthly HOA. HOAs can be a margin killer when it comes to buy and hold long-term investments. A margin killer, because that's just money you're throwing away. You're burning it, lighting on fire and burning it. It doesn't go towards anything. And so you want to be really careful. Now, if there's enough margin and enough spread in a location you like, then yeah, like pull the trigger on it and run, right? But just an idea, right? And obviously these are just arbitrary numbers, but it just gives you some sort of baseline. So at price 404 with 20% down, because if you're buying as an investment, you're going to want to put 20% down, because when you put 20% down, you don't have MI or PMI, and PMI and MI, they're the number one margin killers, which is just mortgage insurance. No need to pay that if you have the 20% down. So with 20% down, you are extremely cash flow positive if you can rent it out for this. So then we'll go and look at closed, but this is an idea, right? We're just trying to get a baseline. Okay, so we've established, and we'll do a little bit more homework. I'm just trying to speed through this so you guys understand the principle. So we've established these condos in Val Vista Lakes, there could be some good deals there that make a good investment. When we're talking cap rate, or like if you Google strategies on how to find a buy and hold, you might stumble across something called a 1% rule or a 2% rule, where rent, so the easy way to kind of vet rentals is rent needs to be 1% of the purchase price. So at 400,000, rent needs to be $4,000. That rule is not, it doesn't exist in Arizona. Like, you won't be able to do that. The only way you could do that is potentially buying a distressed home for significantly under ask, for all cash, that needs to be rehabbed, and you can refi out, and now you're in a pretty big equity position. But even doing that, like, it's finding a needle in a haystack. It's just not a thing in Arizona. So, but you just want to establish, hey, what's cash flowing, right? What's positive? And this, if we look at these numbers, this is a pretty dang good cash flow, pretty good. And we'll talk about cap rates and stuff in a different video, and talk about all the different types of making sure it is a good investment. But when you're doing your preliminary homework, you just want to make sure you're looking in the right areas. And this is how you do it. You get 2 tabs. You identify areas. So we know these condos, specifically these condos, if they can rent for $34.50 and you can have a payment of $21.26, again, arbitrary, but you put this on a spreadsheet, then this is a good area to keep your eye on. And then we can set up different searches so you get emails of like when new homes pop up and things, right? And then you would just go through and you do it again with a different area. So in 9 out of 10 times, it's not going to work. It's not going to work out. That was crazy. That just happened to work out that way. But the way we identified that was we saw that there was a bunch of 3s and 4 in here. So we zoomed in and we started diving into it. So if we do that again, I know this is kind of like, it's going to be tedious, guys. But if you want to buy an investment, if you want to be an investor, if you want all the benefits, it's a tedious thing. Okay, so Jake's range for the 5, there's not a lot in there. We have 2, 3, 2, 4. Don't love it, don't love it. Okay, here's a clump over here. My map will load. If my map will load. There we go, this is Williams. 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. Okay, don't love that. Okay, so I'm gonna go and add more filters. I'm gonna add price. So let's go minimum. Go minimum 2,500. Let's start there. Lionsgate would be a good one. Okay, so we have 1 in Ray Ranch, 450, and this was just north. So in here. So nothing for rent in here, which is good. The problem is that we don't know. We don't have a lot of comps, but it also means there's not a lot of competition. So 450 is pretty good. 450 for a 3-bed, 3-bath, 1,600 square feet, smaller lot. So that backyard is going to be easy to take care of. So if you're like, hey, I don't want any pets in my rental, now something you want to be aware of is this AC is going to be old as heck. So that's going to need to be replaced pretty soon. So tap out another $7,500. All right, so monthly payments. This again, just roughly, we're just getting an idea. This is going to be a different subdivision, I think. Yeah. So we just need to find. So if I were to go all filters, sold through the past 6 months, this is where we get into the next layer of what we would do. So these are all the comps right here. So we have a 6-bed, 4-bed, 4-bed, 4-bed. So we don't have any 3-bed, 3-bath. So I wouldn't like write this down yet. Maybe write it down to keep your eye on, because I like the fact that you can get a 450 in there. And so if rents, right, your payment's going to be roughly $2,300 with 20% down at this interest rate. If we were to change this, because rates are a little higher right now, so 2418, maybe it's not a bad deal. Maybe you could find something in there. So maybe write that down to kind of just keep an eye out, right? But I think you understand the process. So you just keep doing this until you find the areas that you want. And then you put yourself on a search, an MLS search, a search on my website, you ask me to do it for you, whatever. And we start keeping our eye on these areas, and then we start figuring out a baseline. Meaning, okay, I talked to a lender. I know it with 20% down at this price point in the current market with the current interest rates, my payment is this. I need to stay under X. So rent needs to be here, and we only look for rentals that get that. Now we start dialing it into the areas that we're looking for. And that's what you need to do over and over and over again. And now you have a spreadsheet and you're getting the emails and you have an idea of what you're looking for. That's the first step you do when you want to buy an investment house that is not going to be a primary. I mean, we're just in Gilbert too, right? Like we would start in Gilbert, then go to Chandler, then go to Mesa. But I would always start smaller, do that area, and then expand. Because once you start seeing don't get overwhelmed. Stay organized. Like once you add Mesa, it's just gonna be it's gonna be too much going on. And Gilbert's hard. Like Gilbert, it's hard to find a rental in Gilbert. That makes sense. So where are we? Gilbert and Warner. So we have a 7, we have a 3, we have a 2. So at least $2,500, right? So if we see a 2, these be at least $2,500. So let's go to Gilbert and Warner. Gilbert and Warner. So right across Gilbert, where does that take us? So 0 rentals in there. Okay, so we skip that one and we keep hunting, guys. Like we keep hunting. Cooper and Warner. $3,000 a month. Let's see, is there anything under $450 in here? No, nothing under $450. Okay, so we keep going. And we just keep doing this process. So you start building out your list, getting organized, and now you have where you want to look because you vetted, hey, the rents support this price point. And that's how you go about finding your very first rental. That's all I got. Let me know if you have any questions.